In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Kakimori Pen Nib. I'll go over the specs, I'll do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this nib coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. So this is the Kakimori Pen Nib, and you can see it comes in this nice box. Kakimori does a really nice job with their packaging. We do sell these at thepapermind.com. The retail price on these is $28. Just looking at the nib first, you can see this is a pretty typical looking kind of fountain pen nib. However, this is a dip pen nib, so you'll notice there's no feed on there. You can see Kakimori there. These are made in Japan for Kakimori, so this is definitely a unique nib. This isn't a Bach or a Yovo, a nib that you can get on any other type of pen. This is a Kakimori dip pen holder. This is their Japanese maple wood, Sakura wood. These are $35, and they have an ink resistant finish on them, so you shouldn't be staining these too easily. You can see that they have a standard dip pen nib holder. This is a Hachikawa one, and so you can just see it's a similar fitting, and it will fit a standard nib holder. I will put it in the Kakimori one. Looks really nice. And with this nib, I get about maybe a couple of lines with a single dip in this nib. And the reason that I like this so much is that it's very easy to test different colors of ink. You're not committing to filling up a whole pen or even filling up one of the other Kakimori nibs. They're metal nibs. These will hold a lot more ink. And if you really just want to do a quick line, these are super easy. You just dip it in the inkwell, write quickly, and then dip it in some water, wipe it off, and you're ready for another ink color. So for really fast ink changes, this is really my favorite nib. You know, this nib definitely has some feedback to it. It's not the smoothest nib. It writes with a nice fine point. I do enjoy writing with it. And if you want to write, you know, a letter or something like that, I've found that this is actually quite fun to do, especially if you have nice ink. Kakimori does these great pigment inks, which these are inks that I personally would not want to put in a nice fountain pen just because the pigment ink, I think, has more of a possibility of clogging. However, you do get these really nice, beautiful colors. So for these kind of inks, I really do prefer the dip pen nib. Gives you access to more types of ink, I think, than a typical fountain pen. So there's definitely a lot to like here. Let's do the writing sample. For the writing sample, we're going to be using a Papermind Mitsubishi bank paper notebook. These are really excellent with fountain pens. For Blake's Broadcast viewers and subscribers, you can get 10% off with code BB10 at checkout. Okay, so I'm going to be doing this with the Kakimori Oi Po pigment ink. This is a really nice red ink. So with this nib, I'll show you why I like this so much. This is the Kakimori Pen Nib, and this is the Oi Po ink. Really nice ink. Let's just see how far this goes before we run out. Yep, okay, so we got about 2.5 lines there before it ran out, which is great for testing ink. You don't have to commit to too much. In terms of fast writing, it's really not designed for this, and you can see when I did that dot there, a lot of ink, just lost a lot of ink. Yeah, it works really well actually for fast writing. In terms of flexibility, I mean, it's really not designed for this, and it's not a lot. Reverse writing, no, can't really do that. I really like this for testing different inks because all you do is you dip it and then you just wipe it with a paper towel and I'm ready to go for a different ink. It's really, really easy. I use this quite a lot when I'm testing new inks or I want to do a bunch of different inks on one page. It just makes it super effortless. So I really enjoy this. In terms of the way that it writes like a fine or extra fine. There is some feedback. I enjoy it. I like writing with this nib quite a bit. But I think really for ink lovers, this is a worthy item to have just because it's so easy to test different inks and it cleans up really nicely and easily. So what are my pros and cons for the Kakimori Pen Nib? Well, the biggest pro here, again, is that it's a dip nib. You don't have to fill up a fountain pen to use this. It writes like a normal fountain pen fine kind of nib. There's no flexibility to it. It's just a standard point. And again, I think the reason that I would want this nib is just for testing ink. It's very easy to clean. It doesn't hold as much ink as the Kakimori metal nib, what they call their metal nib, which I think actually does have a purpose because if you're just trying to, do a small line or two, this is enough and you're not wasting any ink like you might be with that if you wanted to write that little. So again, in terms of as a part of a kit for testing different inks, I think this is really a nice addition to have along with those other two Kakimori nibs. And it is nice to write with. It definitely has feedback, so if you like feedback, you might like this nib quite a bit. It's very easy to clean. Again, easier to clean than those other Kakimori metal nibs. And it fits a standard nib holder like this Kakimori Sakura wood nib holder. So that is really nice. In terms of cons, well, I don't really have a ton of cons. I guess I would say it's definitely on the scratchier side, so if you like smooth nib, this isn't going to be for you. It is $28, which I think is, I mean, if you consider that the other metal nibs are $54.50, this is definitely better. It's not that cheap. However, it is made in Japan, and it's not, it's not a Bach nib. It's not somebody else's nib. This is made specifically for Kakimori in Japan, so it is actually quite special in that way. But, for a steel nib, it's on the expensive side. But that's pretty much it. Do you guys have this nib? Do you like this nib? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.